Welcome, everybody. As I said, my name's Orlando Zucchetto. For those that have not met me, for half of the audience here that have not met or had the pleasure yet of meeting Miriam and Florian, it is my immense pleasure to introduce two of the most wonderful people that I have met in the NLP world. And I've been around the world twice now, so I've met a few of them along the way. All the way from Germany, which I've been told is not actually as far as I used to think it is from where I am. Miriam Deforth and Florian Gross. Now, to give you guys a little bit of background, this is a great experience for me to learn as well, because in many relationships in life, we can get to know people on a certain level, but there's so much more about them we do not know yet. So I've constructed some of this evening's questions completely and utterly for my own fascination, so I can learn more about Miriam and Florian. I sent them a list of questions, and as soon as they okayed them, I changed the questions because I thought that would be a lot more interesting. Miri brings with her decades of experience on stage, in theatre, and on television. While running her own drama and stage school, she was winning awards including the Herhausen Foundation Prize, the German Rock and Pop Prize, and the German Children's Theatre Prize. From there to QVC, the world leader for home shopping, forever leaving her mark as an exceptionally skilled saleswoman and presenter. Florian, a slightly different path to come to us.
Maybe you should have started with me.
Well, I think a lot of people can relate to this, that Florian's career didn't start out as an NLP trainer or on a stage. Florian had a very successful career in information technology, including projects for the German Federal Ministry of the Interior. Wow. He made the move to his own consultancy for project and process management, agile structure implementation, as an accredited Kanban trainer. Which is that pronounced correctly there?
Kanban.
Potato, tomato, tomato.
Theoretically, it's a Japanese term.
It is, yeah, so Kanban. For over 15 years now, he is delivering training courses for global players and within management of large international companies. Florian has become a very well-known name within the German speaking training culture, and he is fast gaining traction in the English culture, and you'll find out why in just a moment. Because this couple that are in front of us this evening, both of them are licensed NLP trainers. They are both NLP coach trainers with the Society of NLP. They are both valued members of the international seminar team for co-founder of NLP, Dr. Richard Bandler. They have been part of that team in Florida, in London, in Italy, and online all around the world. And the two of them are very quickly getting known in many, many countries in both hemispheres. The two of them working together and continuing to work with Dr. Richard Bandler are continuing to guarantee the highest level of learning for their students from the source. And that's what I believe drove them initially to actually meeting Richard, which is where I met them both in Orlando, Florida, mind the pun. Miriam and Florian are the co-founders of Kontext denken, one of the leading providers of NLP training and coaching in Germany, based in their academy in Krefeld, Germany. Now, my absolute apology if I've butchered your language and changed the pronunciation, but it's not my fault. I'm from New Zealand, mate. Now, there was a point where the most asked questions of Miriam and Florian following her career in television, I'm assuming, is, number one, is Miri pregnant? She is. Oh, she's not. So Florian was nodding there.
It's the one most asked question.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, right, yeah. I'm not trying
all
to be.
Times. Yeah.
I'll
We're
be
already
more
starting
clean.
with the ambiguities. Yeah.
It's perhaps.
Or we're continuing, maybe.
Yeah. And it's us every time, every year, every month, every week. There is at least one person who's asking me that because I was wearing a longer T-shirt in television.
Oh no!
Yes.
See, that's strange because I sometimes wear a longer T-shirt, but no one asks me. The other two questions that were very often asked is, why did Miri leave QVC?
Yeah. Do you want answers for those?
Well, why not?
Why not? Because I decided to make a whole new life with my husband Florian, and we were well, during the time that I was working at QVC, which is one of the most popular home shopping TV stations in the world. Florian and I already founded Kontext Denken, which is our NLP Academy and Business Academy. And when it started to get more and more successful, my time at TV station and my time with NLP trainings collapsed in a way. So I didn't know where to go. And there was one day when we both said it's time for a decision. And so I left home shopping with a tear in my eye because I love it. And it only took a year when they caught me back in.
So now you've got both, a wonderful husband and television if you want it.
A wonderful husband, a beautiful academy, and another job at television, home shopping. Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. And how do Miri and Florian celebrate Christmas?
Was that one of the most asked questions?
Yes, it was one of the most asked questions 2019.
Yep.
At Christmas time.
I don't remember Christmas 2019.
I'll send you a link to your website.
Yeah, there's like we do this every year because Miriam gets asked a ton of questions on social media and actually answers them. And so she keeps a running tab of what's currently the topic. And we celebrate Christmas usually not at home. So last year, 2020 was really different from all the years that we've celebrated Christmas together before, because usually we go into an amusement park and ride the roller coasters. That's become one of the rituals in our family. It's even more fun if the kids aren't around. If the kids are with their grandparents, then we just go by ourselves. If they come along, one of us, well, the big one has to watch the small one in case somebody has to be this tall to enter. Yeah.
Well, it's good for them to learn those skills of delegation and taking responsibility while you guys have fun. So I thought we might start with some different questions this evening, a little bit more pertinent to what we might be interested in. What makes you the two most unusual NLP trainers in Germany?
Do you want to answer?
You're our ambassador.
Oh,
go for it.
And that makes it important.
Yeah, okay. Of course.
We say that to ourselves or about ourselves because we both bring so different skills into the NLP training. And if our viewers today have already took or taken part in an NLP training, they may have recognized that somehow the training maybe is colored by what the trainer is doing all around NLP. So for us, it means that my job on stages and in front of television cameras and Florian's job consulting and being with really huge enterprises makes it a weird and beautiful mix that we deliver to the people who come. Because we have on one hand the private section of NLP where people can learn to do magic with their language. And on the other hand, we have that business case that really throws us into sales and consulting and team building. And that is a mixture that I've never seen before anywhere on this planet, even not only in Germany.
Yeah, no, I can full-heartedly agree with that. The mixture of skills and the approaches that the two of you bring when the two of you grace the stage, it's like watching a symphony with hilarity in between. It's almost like the two of you have pre-planned every motion and every move, but it's too spontaneous.
We spent most of our time preparing.
Like a choreography.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What is it that started your journey into learning NLP?
Oh, it's you first. You go first. Because you did go first.
I did go first.
Yeah.
So I spent a high school year in the US in 1996, 97. And the Tony Robbins CDs were running up and down the nightly TV ads. And that's where I started. That's where it actually caught up with me. That was the first time I read of NLP. I bought his books and got to know all the terms. And it took a couple of years of being back in Germany to actually go to a formal practitioner training. And then it continued on from there. Ever since then, I've had some trainings every year, basically. And in 2014, I decided, because it was such a pleasure to do one of the trainings I did, and I had so much fun, I decided to redo my practitioner training. And in that practitioner training,
I took also part. It was my practitioner, my first practitioner. It was Florian's 7th practitioner and my first.
I'm a little slow at times.
Yes. There we met
Lucky
each
at
other
this time.
first time.
Yes.
And
Sorry,
an exercise with Florian in that practitioner workshop, I recognized that he did all those patterns and all those magic language things so professional already, that in my brain there was something like, he's cheating. Is he already a trainer or whatever? Is he Richard Bendler?
I love that instant assumption.
Yes.
It's not, is he a wonderful human being? Is he cheating? Let's go.
It was not love at first sight.
but he obviously did take your imagination, or at least part of it, with his skill level that made you think even more about him.
I think he did it. He made me fall in love with him.
And there you are, everyone. There's this evening's greatest advertisement, NLP. You can have someone fall in love with you, get married, open an academy, and have a wonderful life. Thank you for the evening.
So those are the steps to become an NLP trainer, obviously.
There's some details in between, yeah.
But basically, the strategy, it's all there. Right?
So the first, so at that practitioner, was that in Germany?
Yes.
Right, and that's where the two of you literally met. Oh, that's a bit cute, isn't it? Oh, you guys. Okay. I'll get on to another question. I'm going to get mushy. We can't have that going on. I did as much homework as I could, but my understanding of the German language is very minimal at best. I think I'm up to 3 words now, so I wasn't able to understand much of your podcast. But I did sit there typing things out to do some translation to get my head around what the topics were. And one of them really got my interest, a series called The Relationship Box. What is the relationship box?
It's a word game or a word play in German. So it basically means all the stuff that's going on in a relationship. And we also had the double what do you call it? The double meaning that it's also the box that we had to go on YouTube and just talk about relationships. We decided to do that series because we didn't want to deal with relationship questions in the trainings. So we just made YouTube videos out of it, and they've been there ever since.
Huh. Well, they've been there ever since in German, so tonight I've got some questions about relationships, and they're in English. The two of you have got a phenomenal love and connection and respect for one another, And so this question makes a lot of sense to ask people that are successful. What do you believe is key to living and working together successfully?
For me, there are many things. For Florian, probably not so. Yes, that's how we think. We think so different, and that's the most funny thing that we experience while being together in private scenes and being together in business cases. So I've never would have imagined to be so in love and so happy and so glad and thankful with a person that does so many, so very different things to what I think and do. And that were, in fact, the reasons that when my relationships that I had before, not many, perhaps one, that I had before were crushing down, or I made them crush down. I don't know it. It's good that I did, because that's the way how I met Florian. And if you would ask us without being together here, you would really wonder what answers you get and how different they are. Because I think that we use a lot of the things that we know. For example, the magic language patterns of NLP. Of course, we both know them, we both studied them, and it's a deal in between us that we allow each other to be so kind and make these offers in language to the person that lives with us and that we love. And the other thing is that we really have goals together.
Mhm.
We developed a vision of future that carries our love, even in moments when it's getting a little bit harder. You know what I mean? And those moments are happening to us. Sometimes people ask us, "Do you never have any Streit?" Arguments with each other, because you always look so lovely together and you're so nice with each other. And well, that's
not.
Of course not. Never. Never. We never argue.
Basically, it's all cheery and happy, and we're just
Yes.
nary a cloud in the sky.
Never. Yes. After all, we're public. No, it's true. We also have our discussions and we think different and we tell each other what we think. And the thing that for me that carries are that we do this magic way of talking to each other. We're getting to the hypnotic language patterns further in the evening, and that we, yes, that we move ourselves by developing our life in future. We imagine how we go together.
Mhm.
Yes.
So
Until really horizon.
it has a lot to do with this shared vision of the future and the shared dream of having a much bigger academy one time. So there's like we've carried the image of our own Hogwarts. So a language, what would you call it? A magic language school, a magic school for thinking for the last 5 years. Where we're often talking about what it would be like, what the next steps are, and if I see the progression of what.
Einen Morgen musst du hier, einen Morgen musst du hier einen Parkplatz finden. Ja,
If I can get it.
There we go.
Perfect.
That's right.
If I see the progression of how far we've come, we've actually done like a little Hogwarts we've already got. Yeah. Now our academy is a small part of that already, of what we want to achieve, and that's what keeps us together, because really we're very, very different. I'm not sure if Miriam's words were precise enough to actually convey we're very, very different. And I think that's the part you asked, working together, success, or living and working together successfully. And I think a lot of the success comes out of the being very different. And what we noticed in the last couple of months, especially, is that relaxation and taking a deep breath from time to time, like going down, relaxing a little bit more. That has really been a part of keeping that difference towards the same goal viable, or to keep that as a solution.
So for a couple out there that were, and it may not be with an NLP business, for example, it could be a couple that are looking to have a business together or work together. How important is that? It sounds to me that that big goal or that big combined future, even though it might be a long way off, that you're both working towards, that you would rate that very highly.
For me, it's very important. I don't think that for Florian it is that important. What is important for us together with that goal is that there is a feeling in it. And I don't know the word in English to describe it. In Germany, I would say es zitzelt. It's like a glass of champagne.
Just say that again.
Zitzelt.
No, you got to say it with your body. It's
like the sparkling in the glass of champagne. What do we call it? Like
effervescence. The effervescence, the rising of the bubbles.
Yeah.
Yeah, perhaps. And that feeling, we both know this feeling when we talk about the goal. And that reminds us sometimes that we both together can develop an energy that is unique, like every couple out there. Because the combination that we talked about, why we're unusual NLP trainers, you and Amanda are very unusual NLP trainers. And the combination of two people who are different, of course they are, and who have different skills and different ideas of life, that makes so much more energy. And some people just don't know what they do, because they can really, they can change so much for themselves and for other people. And talking about our Hogwarts project, the magic school, the magic castle that we will have as a school, and describing it in our minds like it's already here, that makes, it makes, for me, it makes sense that it carries even the business thinking that we need. Because it's not always like living in a dream, you know. We also have sales and counts and Steuer. Taxes. So
everyone has Steuer everywhere in the world. Death and Steuer, only guarantees. Oh, that's absolutely awesome. So I think you've answered the question here. That the next question is: do you use your NLP and hypnosis skills with each other? And if so, to do what?
He would never do that.
No.
There's almost a presupposition in there that we would, the presupposition that I'm having trouble with is this, that we're using the skills, that we're sometimes using the skills and sometimes we're not using the skills. And I think that is something that has really evolved for us in the last couple of years. I don't think there's an off switch for either of us. I wouldn't know if there is an off switch. I wouldn't know if I would press it. I think we keep this thing on all the time, and of course we use these skills together all the time. One of the more obvious situations is when I come home from a training, or Miriam goes onto a training, and we're learning something individually. Usually in the first evening we meet again, it's like, so what did you learn? Let's try something. So, and we're both like, yes, let's do the exercises you did in the training. And that really keeps our training business sharp, and that keeps that gives new exercises and new stuff for us to do. I remember a couple of very funny scenes coming home from trainings where we were trying out very different things, because I once was at a training in England where it was the crossing of NLP with really ancient magic rituals. And
didn't know what he was doing.
Yes.
Until the first evening when we had a phone call. And I asked, so how's the training? And he said, well, it's weird because.
It was a really interesting training. It was very, very far out. All the hypnosis training Miriam has done, or I have done, we usually use the exercises on each other immediately after. all the time in between. Since the first training we took together in 2014, I think we've done all the exercises together, to practice the exercises and to keep the skills as a trainer, and also to have the lovely experience of having all the changes and really feel what's different, and really grow together. And sometimes we had this image of like we're on the German Autobahn, so the highway, and sometimes one of us will like put on their turn signal and pull ahead of the other one, and that usually leads to the other one to just like go like, wait, what did you just learn? That you did something there that you've never done before. I haven't seen that in you yet, so I want to learn that. And usually then we catch up with each other.
Yes, and there is also another point for me,
Mhm.
that we live NLP and all the techniques that we love and learned
Mhm.
for ourselves. So if people are working with themselves, changing their lives, changing their thoughts about world and what's happening, it's a natural phenomenon to me that the world around is catching it up. So we both know that we want to learn, we want to develop, and we love NLP. So it's fine for us that we both can do it. And sometimes sometimes I really imagine, for example, when we're together in a car, that there could be a camera in the car filming us for YouTube show, because there are two NLP people in a car driving somewhere, and the dialogues are so weird.
I know what you did there.
Yes, I know. You said this because
Mhm. Yes,
because.
because
Do you ever find that when you're driving a long distance and you pull over to get a cup of coffee or something from a Starbucks, and you walk into the Starbucks and you realize that you're still talking the same conversation, and other people start looking at you like,
Yes, of course. That's what makes life mostly funny.
So I know that because Amanda and I, when we came over to visit you guys, we met them both.
Oh,
We
that
know
was
you've
so
got
beautiful. Oh, we want to do that again.
and we will.
Our students were so happy. That was a masterclass that we did. They all remember you. They all are talking about you and Amanda the whole time. It was amazing. Thank you.
We'll be back. The world is beginning to open up again.
Yes.
I can't wait personally. When we were over there, we got to meet your two beautiful boys. Do you use your NLP and hypnosis skills with the children?
Of course we do. I mean, that of course we do.
All right.
We know what we're not doing is we do not explain NLP to them. We are living NLP. We are living that beautiful. It's an art of conversation, isn't it? I think so. It feels, for me, it feels like that. And by watching us, by receiving those beautiful patterns of language, they also are really good in it. So sometimes we have to watch out what they
intuitively, what they do, what they pick up just along the way. So the kids aren't originally from me. What would you call them? In Germany, we say I rented the kid. No, that's the term they use. I'm a rented dad for them. And so I met them when Theo, the smaller one, was 3, and Jonathan was 7. And so Theo has been growing up a lot around me, and now they're 13 and 9. And so we started to have a PlayStation, and we started to play a lot of games. And Theodore, of course, the smaller one, wanted to play as well. And we started to notice that he picks up the language patterns really naturally just from listening to us. So one day he came, or in the beginning he came up to me and was like, "Hey Florian, can I play some video games?" And my natural inclination is just to say no. So he comes up and I'm like, "No, why?" And then he started to change his structure, so he'd be very charming, or he'd do this or that. And at one point he actually came up to me and he was like, "Florian, I know that you're just gonna say no again, but it's really important for me as a person to tell you that it would be really great for me. I would really feel good if you could just let me play a little bit of PlayStation. And I'm like, am I the person who always says no?
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah, he picked that up on by himself, and I think the one of the things that I really notice in both of them is they're so flexible. So we stretch their flexibility from time to time, and as soon as they get back onto our family bus, then usually we have a lot of fun together, and that gets good results also from other people. So Jonathan has had a couple of it's not an apprenticeship, but it's like a short apprenticeship. I'm not sure what the English word is, like a day or a week where he spent some time in a company, just
like a work experience, an experience at a workplace. Yeah.
And he comes across as very gentle, very open, very so that's the feedback we get.
They want to keep him.
Yeah. And I think that that just for us, that gives us the feedback that the NLP training with kids works.
So would it be fair to rather than sitting them down and teaching them NLP, much in the same way that as they've grown up, they've learned language, rather than learning a set structure of language patterns, by utilizing a full range as wide as you possibly can of language with them, they're only being confined by how wide you can stretch them to go?
Yes.
Wow. That's two very, very lucky young men.
By that, and also by I think they learn. So basically, we as humans, I think, learn a lot by example. And to see us maybe arguing and being able to, within 5 minutes, to go from a really heated discussion to sitting next to each other again, holding hands, that's something that they also noticed. That so if there is some energy in the room or some argument in the room, that might be okay. It might be good to let that out, and then but the question is, what does it mean for the next 5 minutes, or what does it mean for the next hour, or for the evening? Does it really have to have an influence there, or do you have a choice every minute to just change? And I think that's something they picked up along the way.
Well, of course, they're seeing that learning occur in front of them. They're seeing the experience happen. So it's the only example they've got. So that must be the way it's done.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like they learn their language, their mother language. They also learn those patterns because they're hearing and seeing them everywhere when they're with us.
One of the funny things that Theodore once said on a drive with Jonathan. So we were in the car for a couple of hours, and Jonathan was the whole time picking on Theodore, and Theodore turns to him and goes like, "Jonathan, I really like you as a brother, but I really don't like your behavior." And it's like
and that from a 7-year-old. So I think that switch and that turn is one of the surprising Ergebnisse?
Results.
Yes. Of you go first as a parent or a father, a mother. Yeah.
Absolutely. It'd be interesting to see how relaxed you are when they're both incredibly good at linguistics and teenagers at the same time.
We will see. I'm not afraid of what they do. I'm a little bit afraid of what happens with Florian when they bring girls or boys, whatever, at home.
One of the funny patterns that happened in the last couple of months was Jonathan was always going like, so we would say something and he's like, and I started to just pick it up and push it back onto him, and he stopped within the first week. So it's like it hasn't happened since.
Yes.
Wow.
I think it's a lot like notice, and I think you're going to ask the questions later. It's a lot of noticing the patterns that happen around you, and I think that's what the core of later NLP trainings, like master practitioner level and above, is like to start to notice the patterns around you. Notice what happens again and again and again, and then do something with that. And I think that's the teenager thing. When he starts to use those patterns, if we like him, we support him. If we don't like them, then we'll see how flexible he can be. Yeah, and yeah. Unfortunately, he's growing all by
How
himself.
flexible are you now?
Yeah. I wonder what he'd say.
Yes.
I think that sometimes it's a little bit.
Florian, this is inappropriate. I love you, but I do not love your behavior.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And
He
that's
must have learned
beautiful, isn't it? It's so beautiful because it's not the person. I mean, we sometimes do, or people sometimes perhaps, and we all did perhaps in our life some stupid things,
Mhm.
but it's not us. It's how we behave. That is the biggest learning of NLP, and how we behave is already ready to change, because that's easy.
Very, very much so. And how we behave now is not determined by our past. It's determined by the way we choose to behave now, which is determining our future. Very, very much. Okay. So here's the big question, and take a moment, if you will, before you answer it, because it is a big question. What are the key elements to growing together in life and in love?
These are big words also. Because my
They're
brain
big on
is
the
not
page.
really, my brain is
Oh,
on
it
a
makes
journey.
immediate sense to me.
Well, then it's your turn.
What are the keys? Keeping at what you're good at. And actually, this shared goal we talked about, or the shared vision or the shared plan or something like that, that is, and talking about it, and in the heated moments, reminding each other that we do all this for a shared, for some shared purpose. That's my big word answer. Whatever that means.
Oh, I agree entirely. I think it's brilliant, Murray.
So let's have a little bit more details.
What I would like to add,
Yes.
just to make it clear, is that we were talking about our business goal, which is the Castle Academy, the Academy Castle, whatever. And for me, in my head, it's also existing for the couple that we are in private life, the man that I love and that I want to be together. So when I look into the future of Florian and me, I see we both standing in the sunlight under a beautiful cherry tree and watching over a huge landscape, which is really peaceful. On this landscape, in like golden colors, I can see all the things that we did together and felt together and had together in life. All the laughter, all the fun, all the tears of joy, all the big visions and the huge goals and all the little tiny stuff that we both enjoyed together. The wonderful meals, the evenings when it's raining in Germany and we put on a candle and just sit there and holding our hands, the beautiful moments of high energy between man and woman, everything. And I see we both standing there, and when I look into that future, it feels so beautiful, right? You know what I mean? When you feel that everything is right. And that goal keeps me in love with Florian. He doesn't have to do anything to keep me at his side, because that's the energy that I produce in myself. That's what I wanted to add. That's all.
Yeah. Amanda's having a cry. I'm speechless. We've been put in our place, Florian.
I know.
Yeah, I can see members of the audience. It's all right, Lenny. No one's going to point out that you're wiping your eyes. They have this effect on people. It is what they do. And look, you thank you so much for sharing that, because it's what I'm hearing is the essence of what I felt when I met you both. You're putting words to the way that you do now, and you have done for years, behaved and acted with one another. You know, these are not words that are said and then actions are different. I literally was working with a client today, and she said to me, one of my criteria is I only want to work with trainers that are doing what they're teaching me to do. And I just loved hearing it. And I was talking to this particular client online this morning, thinking of you guys, because your answers are so easily congruent. They don't need to be practiced, because you are embodying what you're teaching. It obviously makes it very enjoyable, because you both smile a lot. Just out of interest, though, with regards to Hogwarts and the growth of, and the academy, how will you know when it's there?
Here we are with all the senses, aren't we?
Mhm.
I mean, we already did a little ride towards Hogwarts, and where we are now, and Amanda, and you know our academy because you were there before it was officially opened, the day before. It was so great. We both recognized, while painting the walls and putting all the furniture in, that we have already our third
the third increment of the academy.
of the Hogwarts Academy, of the castle, because it, from the outside, it's a very old, it's a farmer house, very old, a huge one. And if you drive onto it, there is an alley of old oak trees, which you follow, and then you come to a huge Tor, wie heißt es?
A gate?
A gate, yes, a gate. And it really looks like a way to a castle. Okay, it's not it's not yet a castle. There are a few details that are lacking. For example, the big tower. Yeah. And there are a lot of details that are already castle. So I think we're on our way. I think when I make castle and academy now, castle academy now, yes. Okay.
Some things are already there, and something, and I think that's something we noticed in every iteration we had. And the first training Miriam and I gave together was in Castle Romrod.
A real castle.
So an old German castle in the knight's room with, I think, 12 or 15 people, something like that. And we noticed what kind of stuff we like.
Yes.
So what we really liked was the wooden floors, and what we really liked was the wood paneling on the walls, and the energy in the room. Some things were like the small ways to it, and something like that was like, nah, it's not here yet. And we like a lot of stuff, and I think that's we're working towards more and more finding also out what Hogwarts will be like. Because now in the third or fourth iteration,
I think it's that story
we're
of the
getting closer.
milestones in America. You know, that when I don't know who wrote this story. It's not from me. And I heard it one day, that when a person starts to drive to New York from Dallas, and there's a big fog on the road and he can't see where he's driving, he needs to know where to go, because there are milestones on his way which are saying, now we have still 1,800 miles to go. And when the milestones, when the counts on the stones are getting less,
you know you're going in the right direction.
You know you're going in the right direction. When they go upwards, you know it's the wrong direction. So that's how I recognize that we will know when we reach our goals. On the way, we see that the milestones are getting less with the number. And when we arrive, we can match the pictures that we have with if it's there or not.
Sounds like a good plan. We've got a wonderful question just come up in the chat that I'd like to ask you from Dang. What skills from your careers helped enhance your NLP skills?
That's your question.
Yes. When I did my first practitioner course, I was a saleswoman, and when I already during the practitioner course in my head were like, oh, when I come home, when I come back, I will do this and that and this with the customers. And you know, it's beautiful, because I took, or in my life, it's always like being in a playground and doing some experiments. I mean, what is the worst thing that could happen? Everything stays like it is. Or some people may ask me, "Hey, why are you talking so different?" The wonder about it was they didn't ask. I was changing, for me, in my head, in my system, I was changing my whole language, my whole patterns, everything, and nobody even recognized it. Yes, because it was still German language. And what really accelerated was my success. It was in numbers. In about 2 or 4 weeks after my practitioner, I sold about 30% more than I did before. So it worked.
So that's basically the answer to the question, what did NLP to enhance your regular skills? And I think the question goes the other way around as well.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
So, maybe you want to keep it hidden, that you've been a rock star before, that you've been in front of audiences of 5,000 people with your rock band.
Yes.
So what kind of skills do you have from before the NLP
okay. Thank
trainings?
you for translating. Sorry.
No, I'm just keeping you honest here. Not skipping the hard questions.
But that's it. I mean, that I see
Yes.
people are communicating everywhere they met, and even if they don't meet, they are communicating. And that was my point. I mean, I'm not scared about talking to people, changing things, trying new things out, and wait what comes back. And that's easy for me because I'm on stages since I'm 5 years old. I'm in front of cameras since I'm 20 years old. I'm very used to talk in front of 2 or 2,000 people. It doesn't make any difference. So that was a skill that really enhanced my NLP skills, I think. And the other is that I have a playful mind. I'm very curious. Sometimes I really behave like a child when you give it a new kind of thing that it's never seen before. I have really in my whole system is like, oh, okay, so what's that for? Is it for, or is it for you can put it around your neck. Oh, it doesn't fit. How can I make it fit? And then normally somebody comes and tells me, you know what? This is for
Those are keys.
Yes.
For
open doors. That's a skill. I don't know if I brought it with me from the cloud over there, or if I developed it. I don't know.
I don't know.
Was that the answer to the question?
I think that was one of the the more cerebral answer. I think the way I read the question, one of the decisions we had to make when we felt like we had to make, maybe we made consciously when we decided to become NLP trainers, is to what kind of suggestions do we give for people who want to change something in their life? And one of the decisions we made was that we pretty much closely follow, if you're good at something, why not start to love what you're good at and make money with doing that, and instead of looking everywhere for something new or some kind of new passion, or to go on a long road when you're already good at something, why not just use that? And I think that's the answer for me. We've used NLP everywhere in our careers. So Miriam is still doing sales. I'm still doing consulting. We're still doing the training business. And it's been a wonderful interweaving of all the skills we had before and the skills we have now. So most of our sales is surprisingly done by Miriam. I mean, one of the reasons working with her, together with her, is so great for me because I don't have to sell. It's just that's one of the decisions we made. Like, where do we focus? What are we really good at? And Miriam is great at selling. So why not use that skill from before? Why would we have to change something there? If that's a strength, we can augment it with all the NLP techniques and the technology and make it even better. And we use all those skills. I remember when we were in front of the first really big audiences for me, it was always Miriam at my side who was like, well, compared to what I've done before, it's like not so big. So if you imagine it smaller, I'm like, okay. And she really took my hand there. And sometimes in business settings where I'm much more comfortable in the big enterprise settings, it's been really the other way around. So
Yes.
That's really cool. Lenny's come up with that next little question here. What did you start with NLP skill-wise? Example, submodalities first or something different? Or did you just go in all in with everything?
Ooh, for me, not everything, no. I need a first and second and third, and what comes then? What comes next? For Florian, I don't know. And I think there are different strategies that are working because you can feel in what is good for you. I recommend to our students to make like meta model days and meta program days and hypnotic patterns days so that they can start in the morning and close it in the evening to really put their focus on one technique or one thing that they love and find it everywhere in every situation where people talk to each other, whether they're involved or whether they're just listening to. So that is how I practiced first, and after a while I recognized that you said it how did you say that everything comes together? It was so beautiful.
interweaves.
It interweaves. Oh,
That
I don't even know what that means, and it sounds so good.
Es verwebt sich.
Yeah.
And Florian, was it the same for you?
I think choosing a really good trainer, like if you know somebody who does the things you want to do really well, choosing a really good trainer and have him or her structure the training experience. Because when I read the question, I was like, well, we pretty much started with a practitioner training at one point, and all the skills are in there, and then it's not the first step, and for me it's not the first step anymore. It's the second step then to start to practice individual skills and start to practice it in isolation and then combine together and then go into practice groups like this one.
Yes.
And
Very good idea.
keep at it. That's keep coming back to the topics and keep coming back to all to the training and just keep on doing the little skill exercises, stay in the topic, and then it for me came kind of naturally. So I didn't spend a lot of time thinking about what to practice next. I think a lot of the experience I just had structured for me in some ways, and I was really grateful for that.
Very cool. Now, there's an extension to, I think, Lenny, have I got this right? Is this an extension question or is this a statement that I'm making? Seriously, ultimate relationship goals. I think what Lenny's saying is, please spotlight me. There we go. There she is. This is Lenny.
No.
Hello, Lenny.
Take yourself off mute.
Hi. No, it literally was just a statement because I mean, I just want to say thank you so much for being here. You two genuinely are just the most enchanting couple I have ever met in my life. It's just absolutely beautiful. The way that you interact with each other and the way that you explain things, it's just stunning. So it was literally just a statement. So yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll go now.
Thank you.
So there we go. You guys are awesome. I told you guys were awesome. This is for Florian. How do you use your NLP and hypnosis skills in your business environment?
Successfully.
Good plan. Miriam. So, to what degree do you use yours? How overt are you with your skills? Yeah,
yeah, for sure. So one of the areas that I use especially hypnosis skills a lot is I do a lot of team coaching, a lot of online meetings currently, and especially in the framing part or in this introductory part. I almost do inductions as a way to enter the meeting. So because you're all sitting there wherever you are at the moment, and you're watching the other people on the screen, and maybe it's the evening, so you've had a day behind you, it might be a good idea to take the time now to think about what would you like to get out of this meeting, because it's one of the meetings of this day. And those are the kind of structures that I use a lot in the meetings to, which feel very overt. And I've never been asked why I talk in the beginning of meetings. So it just sounds, usually I'm in the role of the moderator or the facilitator, or I'm one of the people who are supposed to look after the clock or something. And so it's kind of natural that while people are coming in to just talk a little bit and to make some jokes. And a lot of that is hypnotic language, hypnotic, like I said, almost inductions into a meeting, and then coming back out at the end, and structuring the process in a way that I would say is hypnotic, is a hypnotic structure, and it's very overt for me. And I've never been caught at it, or nobody has ever pointed out, why do you talk about this in the beginning? I think it's very natural to start meetings in that way, and that's one of the ways in which I would start in business, to use all those skills in group settings.
There's a lot of talk on, well, there's a lot on social media, on different forms and different channels about storytelling. You know, in business now, if you just tell a story, everything is wonderful and everyone buys one. Mm-hmm. Is that true in your experience?
I don't know. All my colleagues seem to know my kids pretty well. So maybe that's maybe it has something to do with that. So I tell a lot of stories of what happened with Jonathan today, or what happened with Theo today, and surprisingly, the stories always fit what we're trying to achieve. And also at the same time, nobody ever questioned why I talked about this today, or so. In Germany right now, where the time of the year we're at in our state in Germany is that the summer holidays are going to begin in a couple of weeks, and it might be so it's a natural topic for me to talk about where you're going in the holidays and what you're looking forward to in the next couple of weeks. What are those points where you really say, well, I hope that this really comes soon. And I wonder what I'll experience then. And those are the kinds of, is that storytelling?
Not really.
Not really.
It's a good story, though.
I don't know. In my experience, so I think one of the reasons that sometimes I'm booked into those meetings is it doesn't feel like a lot of work I do there. So I talk a little bit in the beginning, and in the middle, sometimes I get angry. And if people start acting up, or if it's sometimes we just have to, I just have to remind people about the rules, something like that. And it doesn't feel like a lot of work, but on the other hand, the meetings run smoothly. And I think that's something that comes from this context setting, from the storytelling in the beginning, and it really doesn't take a lot of time. So it's really just the first 1 or 2 or 3 minutes. I had a meeting today, so I'm working of course I'm working in IT right now, and a lot of IT people are. We have the joke in Germany that you can distinguish an extrovert IT person from an introvert person because he's looking at your shoes, and so a lot of those people are not so socially outgoing. And I had the job today of getting together 2 groups of IT people who have to work together, and they've never really interacted. And of course, I started the session and I was like, I don't know why we're here, because somebody else told me that you need to talk to each other more. And the first thing that came to mind was like a speed dating setup. So I'll just put you into rooms together and you have to talk to each other for 5 minutes. And then I thought, how ridiculous would that be for you to talk to each other from now on and talk about really private things and really share a little bit of what's going on with you? That sounds way, 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 way out of my league. Let's just get together in small rooms and just share a little bit about who you are, what your skills are. And they kind of had interesting discussions, I think. those are the kinds of things I do in my day job.
Very cool. Huh. It's got my brain ticking anyway. It's giving me starting to give me a few ideas. So, which skills do you recommend to practice primarily for somebody that wants to use their NLP and hypnosis skills in business? What should be they should be practicing primarily?
I think the flexibility. So I get paid the money I get paid. I think I get paid because I'm pretty flexible in pacing and in working with the people in the way that they would like to work in. I think that's to really connect to people at their level and really go towards their preferences is something that is for me the key skill of being a consultant. That whatever, if they like to be very structured, I can be very structured. If they like to be very open, I can be, or very unstructured, very optional and going from here to there, I can do that also. If they prefer this or that, then we'll just do it in that way that they really prefer. And that is for me practice, or that is the thing that I practice the most, I think, to really collect them wherever they are, and then in group settings go together towards a shared goal, to keep it lighthearted at moments as well. Sometimes I make mistakes because it's good that somebody makes a mistake, and you just you say you're sorry that your mic was off, and you turn it on, and it's like, okay, let's keep on keeping on.
Yeah. So the way that you teach and the way you train in business now, is that very different after learning the skills of NLP and hypnosis, or have you taken the skills you already had and accentuated those further? So have you changed a lot, or have you just accentuated it?
I've changed a lot.
Right.
So one of the things that that comes to mind for me is having a much more structured approach towards the progression of a training. So before, I had mostly a look into the content of the IT trainings I was giving, or the process structure trainings I was giving. And now I also have a closer look at what's going on in the group. So where are we at energy-wise? What kind of progression do I want to have over several days? What kind of underlying hidden structure do I want to have? Which kind of stories am I going to tell in between? All of that, I think, has changed quite dramatically. And Miriam has seen me train when we only started, and I think I picked up a lot of stuff from her as well. Of course. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
I think I'm just going to jump into the chat here, because there's a question that I just spotted earlier that I think is quite pertinent for both of you. So first, Florian, can we look at this from the business angle? Do you see something missing from NLP? Or another way of asking it is, what additional area or skills would you like to see added to NLP, or and are you working on that?
So from when I look at Miriam and I think I'm the one doing more outside trainings, taking more going more on experimental trainings, looking at this and that, reading a lot of stuff, consuming a lot of stuff to then incorporate into our trainings. I haven't found anything missing yet. So sometimes it's a new perspective on the same material. That's more it for me, that I can explain a lot of stuff that really works well in other areas through the NLP perspective. And sometimes it's like a revelation of how easy something to copy is to copy if I put on my NLP glasses and look at what the trainer is doing there, or what the structure underlying some kind of thing is, or suddenly it becomes very, very, very easy. And that's more it for me. So there's nothing missing. And I'm curious what Miriam will say.
Science.
Science.
I collect everything that I can find, and I write like a blog post whenever we find some neurological studies. And as I did a psychological study as well when I was in university, it's like a little bit like coming home. And how was the word?
Interweaving.
Interweaving. What is now possible to see when neurologists are doing their studies, or we have in Germany a very famous professor, Dr. Günther Kühn, who is working at a university in the middle of Germany, and he does biopsychological studies, really science. So he's measuring what is changing in the brain when people learn and when they have good feelings, bad feelings, and how they process it in their brains. And he did a lot of progress, and all the things that he is really working out and completely scientific. He's not at all doing something with NLP stuff. Everything that he's working out is like a, whoa, that's the beweis.
Proof.
That's the proof for what we are teaching for over 40 years now, telling people to do. And now we also have like a scientific proof of that it's true. That's how brain is working. And I love that. And I'm like a little magnet in internet and scientific studies. And Florian is helping me very good because he can also read the English studies. And then he's shipping it to me and tell me, if you need a translation, you can count on me. And that's why I'm sitting beneath him while he's watching his basketball games and say, could you please, and tell me please. And he's like, oh, yes. So that's what I'm adding and what I'm working on. And I'm also doing a little like my own study about that nested loop thing, because I love storytelling. It's on stage. It's beautiful for sales. It's beautiful for everything. And I develop new techniques to get it to people.
So you're advancing your work or your skill level with regards to utilizing nested loops. Is that correct?
Yes, and I'm also developing techniques for teaching it to people. Because at some point I find like a little frontier in when people are not so used in storytelling and begin their studies with an NLP practitioner, and then finding that beautiful tool of those nested loops, of those stories that are just that are moving around in circles, doing so much organic teaching and learning for the brain. And they are not, or the theory that we have is, for me, is very complex, and I love to bring it into praxis. And I'm doing my experiments with our students, and they love it. They're telling me that they do. So I tell them, this is a new method. I don't know how good it will work on you, and I want to try it out. And they're coming in the evening. Really, in practitioners, in master classes, they are coming back to the academy at 8 o'clock, at 9 o'clock to experiment with me in that new methods, to learn more about nested loops and storytelling.
So have you given the new method a name yet, or do we have to wait?
It's the Florian and Miriam method now. And that's just a working title.
Fantastic way of doing things.
Fantastic
Florian and Miriam, fantastic way of doing things. What is that? FAM. Oh.
But I'm not still. I'm not still so far that I could write a book. Perhaps someday I will do it.
Which NLP skills did you find made the biggest positive difference in your sales results?
Well, first of all, it was the VACOG, the
representational system,
and to put it really conscious on the language patterns that you use for selling things. And when you really open up your mind and listen to people and watch what people do when they're selling things to you, you will recognize there are at least 3 or 4 of the channels that are possibly in our sense system are missing. And it is so easy to train on that, to bring all the senses into one thing. you know, and that was the first technique that I experienced in sales, was bringing up my sales into sky, was really pushing.
Okay, can I just clarify there? Is that being mindful of the language that you're using, so that you're using multiple sensory language in your descriptions?
So important. On the description on the website, when you do a posting on Facebook, and I'm selling in TV, so I have something in my hand that I'm selling. And the first little exercise that you can do to bring up your senses more is to really get them all through. What you see is a black pen with little gray windows on it. That's the color that it is writing. And what you hear when you close or open this pen is that it's really massive plastic. Plastic.
That one was easy.
Yes, that's the sound of massive plastic. And if you if you take a good sniff, that's my English, okay. You will also recognize that this is a very good one. It does not have any smell, because that's why we love them so much for doing our drawings on the flip chart, because they don't have any smell. What I don't want to do is to taste it, because I know how plastic tastes, and it doesn't it's not so interesting for me. But when I imagine how it could taste, it would be the taste of success for trainers, because these are the most expensive pens either. And what I feel when I have it in my hand is like that. Yes, it has a beautiful size to really feel safe on drawing things. So you take a whole round over all your senses, taking whatever is on your desk, whatever is in the kitchen that you use, whatever is what you wear, it's so easy to train that. And I really give people the advice to do that 3, 4, 5 times a day, just picking up a very boring thing and just turn around through all the senses, describing it.
So, Miriam, can you cast your mind back to when you first started doing that exercise? Did you do it in like VAKOG order, or did it not matter, or how did you structure that exercise to get yourself started?
I didn't structure it by purpose, because I wanted to give my brain the most possible freedom to what comes first, because it also makes discover perhaps some information about how your brain is working, how you analyze things, how you analyze the world.
So how did you get feedback when you first started?
Well, from my customers. There were sometimes 10,000 of them buying more of the pen.
Oh, so when you first practiced this, you just went straight in and practiced it on television in front of tens of thousands of people?
Yes. Yes,
oh,
I practice.
Okay.
I practice.
And some people might not know it, but with the shopping TV, it really is that way, that they can notice like 30 seconds, 40 seconds after somebody says something, that the lines keep picking up, orders keep picking up, and they'll start to ride those waves. That's why it's all live. And so that's like an ideal practice area.
That is. Now, I wonder, Miri, when your sales, I mean, you said you had a 30% increase in sales. Now, yes. From what Florian's just described, if I was the producer or whatever it's called, and I'm noticing that every time you start talking, sales go up by 30%, I'm going to ask you a question. Have you been asked the question, what are you doing?
No.
Wow. So is there assumption that you are just naturally brilliant?
Yes. Oh. After a while, they gave me new names, and my manager in TV station, she asked me to come to a meeting with her to have like a feedback Gespräch.
Yeah, just feedback.
Just a feedback. While watching a show that I did, and then talking about what I did. And in my system, it was like, yes, somebody finally recognized what I'm doing here. They will ask me, and when I tell them, they will pay my master practitioner, so I don't have to pay it. So I went to the feedback, and I was like, yeah. Now it's coming to it. So we were looking like a little piece of my show, like 10 minutes, and afterwards she said, "Well, we recognize something." I said, "Okay, now." And she said, Your sales are going up. You have 30% more success rate than before. So we were looking what you're doing. And I said, "Oh, looking. Okay." That was perhaps not the right way to recognize what I did. It doesn't matter. And she said, "What we recognize is, do you do some yoga or meditations?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Well, because it's so relaxed and it's still so full of energy and it feels so good to listen to you. And it looks so good when you're staying there. You look so relaxed and your voice is so much more relaxed than before. And you're selling so much stuff." And I was like, "Doo-doo. Okay." So she said, "Well, whatever you do, what meditation is just go for it, continue."
Yoga. Well, I guess although in fairness, how to make that useful, if their belief is that you're the only one because you have a magic genius, then of course they must increase the retainer to keep you.
I think that what you can also see is that people are trying to explain new phenomena by what they experienced in their life. So her idea of what's happening was that people cannot accelerate their sales or their success in about 4 weeks or in a 10 days training. They have to do something else. They have to go to meditation, or they have to do yoga or sports or eat different things to perform. And that is how people explain things instead of asking. And I would so much recommend to ask, how exactly do you do this? I'm asking Orlando, that was amazing. When Orlando visited us together with Amanda, they were sitting, it was 40 degrees. It was a summer with 40 degrees and the masterclass was running. And we told them, here are our car keys, go to the sea, go to the water, do whatever you want. You don't have to stay in the classroom. And they stayed in the classroom behind. And the thing that I was watching, and I was telling Florian in one of the pauses with my coffee cup in my hand, I said, "Do you see? They are writing stuff. They are not speaking German. We do a German class and they are writing stuff on their things." You remember? Mm-hmm. And after 2 days, I asked Orlando what he's writing, and he said, "Oh, if you want to have a feedback, I can give you." And I was like, "How exactly do you do that?" Because the feedback that he gave us of what he was looking, feeling, seeing, even hearing, if not understanding the content that we were saying, but by listening to the melody that we were using, the breaks that we had in our language, was so precise, was so right, was so much NLP, and was giving us such a move forward for this class as a trainer. It was amazing. And the first question that I asked Orlando was, how exactly did you do that? And he was explaining. Perhaps he can do another class here, one of the evenings, where he can explain to you how he's understanding language without speaking a word in that language. Or 3 words, I think he does.
I only get 3 now.
Oh, 4, Steuer.
Steuer, yeah. Death and Steuer.
Well, yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's using all of your senses, and that very nicely ties in with what you were saying in the way that you practice. You know, to what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what it feels like. You know, if you want to taste it, what it tastes like. When we use all of our senses, we have the ability to get more of the message. I'm just reading my question there, but again, I'm going to jump into the chat because I really like one that Lenny's popped in there. and this is a question that I've actually heard, slightly different wording, but I know Dr. Richard Bandler's answer, so it's going to be really interesting to hear what yours is. If you were allowed only one element of NLP, what are your favorites and why? So let's just break that down. If you could only use one thing, one chunk of NLP that you've learned, what would it be?
No matter the chunk size, hypnosis.
Okay. Yep. I'll go with that. Mary?
No.
No.
You hurt my brain with that question.
No, not only one.
Can't.
In theory, they are stacked in a certain way.
Sorry. I'm just
in practice.
Yes. It doesn't look like yes.
I'm sitting at my desk and there's like Post-its everywhere.
I think that's a very cool question, really, because it does get us to stop and think, well, which element? Do either of you have a favorite? I've actually written this as a separate question. What are your favorite NLP toys to play with? Are there elements within the NLP model that you really enjoy playing with?
For me, it's timeline. Everything to do with timeline is really, it's easy to understand. The model is easy to transfer into practice. There's not a lot of NLP terms in there if I don't want to have them in there. So it's really, I think it's an intuitive model to understand. I use it a lot in business settings as well. And yeah, so timeline.
Meta programs.
Ooh.
I love. It's the most beautiful toy that they gave me. Did I? Is it fine? Okay.
Yeah, that's cool. What's your favorite meta program to notice in other people? Do you have an order that you track for?
I love them all, and I love the combination. That's what in the very beginning I said, that the difference in between people and the sameness in a way, and how it gets together to very unique mixes, makes this so beautiful. And perhaps this is really the toy that I love most, because it changes my view to people, and I feel so much more tolerance and so much more acceptance for the strength that people have, because in every meta program, in every part of it, there is so much strength, there is so much moving forward, moving into a better life, into more quality, into more fun. And by recognizing people performing their meta program arts, it's for me it feels like love for people. That makes me love people. Is that fine?
Yeah.
And okay, I have a few meta programs also in myself combined, which are of course the best.
So you're looking for them? Do you look for them first?
And yes, of course.
Which ones are they?
Do you want me to tell people who
Sure.
my meta programs are? Because they can look at it, they can find it out. And sometimes it's easy. I think some of my meta programs that
Are really easy.
are really easy to discover.
Yeah. I think we had a whole talk about this vision thing that might be relevant. Yeah, the Hogwarts Academy,
yes.
working towards the big goal.
Yeah.
That's one we continually look at. Also in a business setting, like how are people starting to move? Is it because the place they're at doesn't work for them anymore? So are they away from motivated, or do they need some kind of shared vision, purpose, whatever, to work towards a dream that might be so compelling that it pulls you forward? Those are I think that's a start. The one we always start with.
And the most beautiful for communication, for business communication also, is you all know people who are when they tell you a story, they really start like far before the Kern,
The core.
the center, the core of the story starts, and they end way afterwards. So if I ask my mother, how was your weekend at the seaside? She's telling me, well, when my best friend and me started to plan this trip a half year ago, we were thinking about if we are traveling there by train, by plane, or by car, because it takes us about 5 or 6 hours to go there. And think about it, there at that moment is an offer for the trains in Germany. You pay only 30 euros and you can drive wherever you want to. And I say, the question that I was asking you, Mom, was, how was it at the seaside? And she said, yes, I'm coming to that. But before, you have to know this. And so it continues like that. And if you have another person who's like Florian and you ask him, how was the weekend at the seaside? He was telling you, good. And then you ask again, so could you please give me some details? What exactly was good?
The weather and the sea.
That's the whole story. So I love these two because, and this is perhaps a little present that we give to the people here tonight, is when you receive emails from people and they have more than 4 sentences, those people love details. Emails are a very fast medium. So we have a very good measuring in what makes an email long and what makes it short. So a short email needs less than 4 sentences. And a long email starts with 4 sentences and no.
If you think 4 sentences is already a really long email, it might be a hint of
how
which
you
camp you're in.
Yes.
Yeah.
And well, if you receive an email which just tells you, hello, Orlando, when is your next practitioner class? Best wishes, Miri. And you would start to answer like with, thank you very much that you wrote me this email, that you are interested in my classes. And now I'm first telling you about the International Society of NLP and the wonderful Dr. Richard Bandler. And then you have like a whole text wall about that. And then at the very end, you write, and my next practitioner course will be in July. You're not really keeping pace on this person. For me, it's very hard to answer those kinds of emails because I'm really tending to tell people stories.
So usually what we do is if you send us an email that is like less than 4 sentences long, then I'll answer. If you would write me anything that is longer than 4 sentences, I'll just forward it to Miriam.
Can I just make a wee guess here? Florian, do you enjoy John Lavell's emails?
Yep. Usually
he's communicating with John Lavelle, because I did 2 times, I didn't get an answer.
The first 2, maybe even 3 emails that I got back from John, all they said was, what do you want?
Really?
It was like he was begging me to write another story.
You know what kind of emails I get from him? It's like my email, and it's only okay, be well, John. And usually I just that's the style that I copied from him as well when writing to him now. Like to have that structure, like sentences where he can put his okay afterwards.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. I'll just check the questions here and make sure just so. Oh, here we go. From Maya, you've mentioned reading, and can you recommend 3 books that added to your skills as NLP practitioners, trainers, and coaches?
Only 3.
Books are Florian's passion. We have thousands of books in the academy and here. It's uncountable. We have books that do not exist
anymore. So if you're really interested, so that's something I found. So that's maybe a hidden trick or something that I rediscovered, I noticed for myself. So if you look at videos of Richard from the 70s, from the 80s, sometimes it's much easier to see the patterns going on than in the current videos. And the same is true with some of the books. And I think that's the part that I haven't heard before. Some of the books from the 80s, they are really not current in the techniques. So all the stuff some stuff that's in there is really redundant right now. At the same time, some of the explanations are much more detailed, or the core idea comes out sometimes easier. It's not so hidden away. So I usually like to read one of the some of the older NLP books. There's like there's one from the 80s that is that I've never seen before, and I have a copy somewhere that came to me already pretty damaged. I think it's NLP 1 or something, where all the where there's a lot of stuff that is being taught right now, that is still being taught, still being used, and it almost feels like it's in the baby shoes.
Was that written by John Grindler, Richard Bandler,
and there's
yeah.
I think Dilts was in there as well, and I think the Leslie Cameron Bandler is in there as well. I'd have to look it up, to be honest.
Yeah, NLP Volume 1 sounds familiar. Yeah.
And that came to mind because that's one of the places where the structure that is used in the master practitioners, where you have like the structure notation, is actually explained. And I haven't found a lot of sources for that, and that is one of the sources. Also, the metaphor book, what's it called? By David Gordon. Therapeutic Metaphors, one of those old books as well. I found really interesting to structure metaphors and to get deeper into that. When you ask, I don't know why I'm jumping to older books. People Pattern Power by Woodsmall. Since Miriam mentioned the meta programs, is a really brilliant meta program book, I think. And it's something that's also, at least in Germany, not so well known.
Oh, that's wonderful. Now, my next question is to both of you. Knowing what you know now, if you started again with the knowledge, but not the skills, which skills would you seek to gain first? And then?
First, the skill to relax. For me. Most important skill.
Yeah.
To breathe and come down a little and
and
clear the thoughts in the brain, and then make a decision.
Whatever she said.
Well, we've got it on video, so you can watch it later. There's another question here from Laura. Are you familiar with trapped emotions? Dr. Bandler did an amazing NLP session with me on the practitioner training I attended, and he literally helped me to add 4 hours to my day. However, trapped emotions persist in my body as pain, as chronic pain relating to trauma. Now I'm studying that, but maybe I can address it with NLP also. Thank you very much.
Well, the question is, are you familiar with trapped emotions?
Mm-hmm.
There is a beautiful metaphor in it, because the trap, or it's also a presupposition that emotions can be trapped. And perhaps some people may feel like this if they have the impression that their emotions are like fixed somehow, somewhere. And as we work with emotions through language, and all people do, the moment that some people who have their cameras on tonight are smiling at us, they're working with our emotions, and they probably may get a feedback. So in fact, I'm not so used for trapped emotions, and I would, for me, I would not love to have my emotions in a trap. So that's the first thing that I would work on. And people give like pictures for how they feel. They give you a picture when they talk to you. Florian and I do some stuff with clean language, which is another technique that comes out of the NLP and was created by, you know, you will. Growth. Which is meant to be completely free of metaphors, which is very interesting because the questions, the clean questions that people learn when they do clean question training, are made to motivate people to find pictures and metaphors for what is going on in them, but for the trainer not to bring anything in it. So if somebody is talking about trapped feelings, there is something behind, there is an information behind that may be important. And that's how I love to work with those kind of pictures. As we are also coaches and coach trainers, Florian and me, we work with people on formats and tools that they can use to help people out if they feel, for example, that their emotions are trapped. And there are many pictures for people how they describe when they suffer. There is also the possibility that emotions are somewhere but not in the body, or they are in the body and then they come out, and that they're in holes or in like bowls, or that they anywhere, I don't know. And so we always give people the possibility to recognize what they're telling us, and then perhaps walk out that picture. What does people normally do to bring things out of traps, for example? That would be a good question if we're working on metaphors. So if it would be really a trap, what can we do? We can take something and tear it like this, and then you can come out. Or
what I think Miriam said reminds me of a story. We had a couple of days ago, we had like a hypnosis training in our academy, and one of the participants had a lot of food intolerances. And we were doing stuff about allergies and talking about allergies and intolerances. And what came out for her was that there's very different rules in her map of the world regarding the one or the other. And it's actually clinically or medically, there is a motivated difference between the two of them if somebody has an allergy or an intolerance to something. And what we started to work on was, well, maybe having such a strict picture or such a strict metaphor of what goes where might not be useful in a way of resolving that. So one of the beliefs she had was that an intolerance is something you're genetically born with. Well, we started to go on the hunt for people who discovered this later in life, or where it just magically disappeared, to break up those belief systems. And I think that's something where we sometimes take on like the symptoms or a metaphor for our story so much that it starts to limit us. And that's the essence of what Miriam said for me, that sometimes looking at this and saying, well, if it's really a trap, then I know that there's a lot of theory behind it, what happens in trauma. And I've actually done some work on that with a different trainer. I'm not sure if it's an easy metaphor to work within, or if I would change metaphors and start to look at it from a different perspective, which might mean giving it a different meaning in some way, and starting to see the symptoms in a different way. And suddenly we're in a different kind of trance, and we're at we have different opportunities when we look at things from a different perspective, to use new tools, and suddenly new roads appear on our map. All we're doing is like we're trying to explain the world with our own internal map. And sometimes we're saying, well, here's a road and here's a road, but there is no connection in between. And then somebody else comes along and walks between those two roads. And I'm like, how can you do that? There is no, it's not supposed to happen. You're not supposed to walk on the grass there. And all that was missing was like the little bike lane that I didn't have on my map. Or maybe there is a connection, or maybe the rules are different. And I think that's something that we notice more and more, starting to use like metaphors that actually, so you're able to change, so that you have a chance to change, and that it might actually even be easy is one of the essences of NLP for us.
Very true. You can see, Laura, I think you're quite happy with that answer, my dear. Wonderful. Well, look, we are coming to that time of the evening. Before we get there, I'm just going to sneak in with an extra question before we have the final word. Running Kontext denken.
Oh, yeah.
Thinking.
Is, for you guys, you've described it, it's building Hogwarts. What motivated you to want to do that in the first place?
It was, for me, it was discovering NLP as the most beautiful offer to look at the world that I live in that I ever discovered. And the wish to give that magic to as many people as possible. Because in my world and in my impression, the more people are conscious about what they say to others and to themselves, and the more they begin to make presence to the people they meet the whole day long, this world becomes a better place. I know that this sounds a little bit like epic, and I'm an epic person. I come from theater, so I really can have a rush on bringing myself into a very, very emotional state. And that's what I felt when I did my practitioner class. And I knew the third day of my practitioner class, I knew that I would be a trainer of NLP. And I never before thought about being a trainer anyway. I worked as a trainer. I worked with students of theater. I worked with students for TV cameras. I worked for media students. That was the moment that I said, okay, this is the way for me. This is that went very, very deep in who I am, what my
values,
what my values are, and it matched it at any part. And I knew that I would be a trainer. And then I met Florian. And then my brain did something very, very smart. My brain developed love for this man. And I had NLP at my side 24 hours a day. And that's it.
Sometimes we describe our relationship as this always Miriam like has this crazy idea, this grand plan, this epic vision of the future, and she'll just go running for it and she'll take the leap towards that solution. And while she's leaping for the solutions, I'll pack our backpacks and I'll take in all the stuff we'll need on the way, and I'll catch up with her eventually. And usually it's at the time to just where it's good to have some kind of food with us, or where it's good to have some kind of blanket on the way or something. And so the dynamic is usually Miriam will take the first leap, and if I start if I start in the same direction as her, I'll make sure we keep going. So I have a much higher threshold for getting started.
Because sometimes on the way, I come to myself and I see Florian taking the backpack and the things to eat and everything, and then my brain does something like, perhaps it's more dangerous than I thought what we do. Then I ask Florian, do you think we could turn around and go back and think about it?
I already packed the backpack. Let's go. The decision was already we made that decision weeks ago. Yeah.
Well, Miriam and Florian, myself, many people watching, myself and Amanda, of course, thoroughly looking forward to watching the two of you take leaps and bounds and carry on with your backpack. There's a lot of building to be done, and we are very grateful to have met the two of you. And I am super grateful that we stayed in touch and re-met again in London, re-met again in Germany, and I cannot wait to meet again. Thank you both so much for taking the time and gifting it to our group here this evening. Yeah, any last words?
We had that, yes. First, Orlando, thank you so much for inviting us, because we love your work. We love what you and Amanda do. You know it, and we feel so connected to you. And I was waiting for that moment to be together with you, talking about NLP. It's amazing. And as you mentioned, our relationship, so love for this evening as well as business. My thoughts were that some people think that love is something that has a beginning or an end, or is there or is not there, or you can buy it, 2 pounds of love or 3 tons at Amazon, and it's not true. And to limit our brain in thinking about love is perhaps the thing that I would love so many people not to do anymore. To feel and believe and see that love is everywhere you want it to be. It's over frontiers, it's international, it's through all cultures. Whenever you have the curiosity to discover this beautiful planet and the people around and all the stories that can be told from the people here tonight and everywhere, there is so much love that everybody can have way enough of it. Not between couples, not only between friends, for everybody, every time, every day. And that is something that we should all work for, because the people who are watching this video, who are with us tonight, they are thinking about their lives, and they are already very conscious about what they do. So we're all in the mission. And our first coach in our academy, Paddy, he's always talking about the love train. So please join the love train, even if it sounds a little bit like hippie. We would so much invite you and bring it to everybody that you meet tomorrow and all the other days. Thank you very much.
That is wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for attending this evening. Please, Miriam, Florian, do have a look in the chat. There's a whole lot of messages and a whole lot of love coming to you there. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll catch up again very soon.
Yeah.
Really gladly.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.